Hi, my name is Marcus and I'm here on behalf of Fracture Sounds to show you their latest blueprint instrument, Dream Zither. If you happen to be new here, Blueprint is a series of free sample instruments compatible with the Kontakt Player, which is also free to download, curated from Fracture Sounds' experiments and passion projects. And in the case of Dream Zither, we have a lovely little instrument featuring the brand new Glissando Controller found in the recently released Compendium Eldenvale. I'm going to show you how that works in a second, as well as the other controls. And then I'm going to show you a piece of music that I've written where you can hear how it sounds alongside a bunch of other free Blueprint instruments. Let's begin. By default, this is what you'll see when you open the instrument. We have a color control, which makes the instrument brighter or darker. We have a stereo width control, which, as the name implies, from mono all the way up to a nice wide sound. By the way, you can reset these controls by holding down Command or Control on Windows and then clicking there. We then have a damping control to shorten the tail end of the note for a bit of extra clarity if you're playing something really fast. Next we have our Fracture Sounds Reverb, which has some cogwheels here which you can click on to get a few extra parameters, including the type of reverb. By default, it's set to Lush, which is a brand new, very nice little reverb that Fracture Sounds have created. Let me just turn it up so you can hear it. But you've also got the choice of convolution reverbs, a whole bunch in there as well, and my personal favourite, the dreamy, lengthy shimmer. Fracture Sounds arguably are known for their atmospheres, which you can solo with this little button here. Here's how they sound. So that's a nice little extra feature for you there. Let me just unsolo that again. And now let's talk about the Glissando Controller. So this is a really cool new feature created by our hallowed founder and CEO, Will Bedford. And I think it's a brilliant, brilliant idea. I mean, I'm not biased in any way, of course. Firstly, you turn it on by pressing the button here. Or, if you're dumb like I am, you can actually set a fader to turn it on and off, which I did so that I could do it whilst I was performing the intro. Really? Probably best set it to a button, but yeah, this does work as well. And then you can choose the MIDI CC with which you can control the glissando. So, to get a glissando, hold down some notes that you want to hear, and then move your MIDI CC of choice up and down. And you can hear we're getting this amazing flurry of notes because I've already switched on this double octave button, which, as the name implies, doubles up the notes an octave above, and it actually shows this to you visually as well, which notes you're going to get. You can, of course, also, if you're so inclined, just do that. That's if you want something a little more diatonic. And next thing to mention is the dynamics mode. By default, this is set to ascending, which means as we go up in pitch, the dynamics will get gradually a little bit louder. Whoops. So our highest note is also the loudest, and this is a very natural way of playing a glissando. However, you can change it here, and this again is exactly the same as in Compendium Eldenvale. You can have it be set via the mod wheel, with the mod wheel down, with it up. Worth mentioning on this instrument that the utmost velocity has got a little bit of a pitch bend to it, which, if you have the mod wheel set to max and then do a gliss, all of those notes are sounding a little bit pitchy for that reason. And then the final mode is velocity, and the really fun thing about this is if you stab one note, play the next one really lightly, and then stab a third one, say, we just hold that, they will all play as as I put them in, basically. So you can do something kind of creative with that if you felt so inclined. And then I guess the last thing to mention is that, you know, as you're playing as well, you don't have to just hold the same chord. During the intro, what I would do is I would hold maybe the last 3-4 notes, but then I'd change the bass note. So let's say you're doing a run that kind of goes up and down towards the end of a piece, say, you know, you could hold down 4 notes like so. And then at the very last moment, add in a 5th. And you get that kind of like very natural sort of finish. Whoops. Now, if you've seen any of my other Blueprint walkthroughs, you'll know that at this point in the video, I usually play a piece of music I've written which demonstrates how this instrument specifically sounds in context. But as you can tell from the background, it's a very special time of year at the moment, and I felt like maybe for this video, I would do something a little bit different. It's the month of December, as of recording, and as we all know, December marks a very special occasion. The mark of an anniversary of something that happened several years ago, and something that evokes a sense of festivity within us, if you will. A sort of festive cheer of sorts. And I felt like it may have been time to write a piece of music that pays homage to this, reworking some previous Fracture Sounds ideas that I've done, to really not only show you Dream Zither, which of course is very important, but also to remind us of why we are celebrating in the first place. I am of course talking about the birth of Fracture Sounds' Festive Bells.
Ooh. In time. That's right. We're going back in time.
In the month of December 2023, Fracture Sounds contributed something to the sampling community, and indeed the music community at large, when they introduced Fracture Sounds' Festive Bells. To mark this occasion, I couldn't just write a demo of Blueprint Dream Zither with some Festive Bells in it. Impossible. It had to be a full Christmas tune, and I decided to revisit and rework the piece of music that I wrote as a demo track for Fracture Sounds' Festive Bells back in 2023. Now, of course, when I wrote that piece of music in 2023 for Festive Bells, there were but 4 blueprints available at the time. Well, on that note, I am pleased to say that we are celebrating 2 things today, because with the release of Dream Zither, we are now on blueprint number 25. That's right. Blueprint is celebrating its Silver Jubilee, and so unlike last time where I used sample libraries from other manufacturers, this time not only did I use exclusively Fracture Sounds libraries, but this piece of music was written entirely for free using just Blueprint instruments. make sure that I show you what Dream Zither is doing, because that is of course what this video is about. Glissando panned left. Glissando on the right as well. And these just create some nice sparkly textures, very useful if you want to add a bit of interest to your Atmos layer, which at the time of playing was just simply doing... There goes my waistcoat. I also wanted to draw your attention to the fact that I pitch shifted an instance of the Dream Zither down by 36 semitones to get ourselves a fat bell kind of sound. Kind of cool. I tried to get as many Blueprint instruments into this piece as I possibly could, however, and so working our way down, we have the OG Blueprint electric keys, which plays a couple of things throughout the piece, most noticeably this little riff. And I think I forgot to tidy this up a little bit, but I mean, I don't think anybody noticed, so it's all good. Blueprint number 10, Epic Grand. If you haven't downloaded this one, you probably should. But just to show you something that I did with it during the middle of the piece, when I wanted to bring it to the very forefront to play that short melody, I set a control to automate the colour so that it brightened it up, made it a lot audibly louder, and then it stood out in the mix more. Nice. Does sound a little bit like it's almost distorting, but who cares? We've got a little bit of thumb piano. I think this is... I'm glad I used this really shoddy performance here as a basis for other instruments to play as well, so that's good. We have Blueprint 15, church organ. See, I changed 2 chords, ergo it's not Pachelbel's canon. A nice bright organ sound, which just sounds so Christmassy, perfect for a Christmas carol or indeed a piece of homage music such as this one. Moving on, textural piano is a good one to add in if you just feel like you've written something that's a bit boring and you want to make it sound more interesting without having to work too hard. This is the instrument for you. Here it is in isolation. Olafur Arnolds would be proud. Next up, number 9, feedback guitar. Amazing textures in this one, as you can hear. You've got to make sure you choose the wild articulations for those lovely, crunchy, distorted sounds. Next up, bass guitar. Of course, I can no longer have a piece of music without bass guitar in it. It sounds so good. We've got 2 instances of this. We've got our kind of bog standard direct signal here. Nice. An amped version next with the drive turned up, compression turned up, tone turned up. For a bit of the extra crunch, choose the picked articulation. It sounds really good. Gosh, percussion. There's a lot going on here, so I'm just going to pick out the key things to mention. Firstly, negative track delay is your friend. Use it for every instrument. Even if it doesn't tell you what the sample start is. This one does, but some of them don't. Even if it doesn't tell you what the latency is, work it out and then go to your track settings and put in a negative track delay for the same amount so that you can play in whatever you like as quickly as you like, smack the quantize button, and it's going to be on the grid and it's going to sound perfectly in time, even if you have a massive sample start and a massive latency to get the most realism. We can move MIDI regions from one instrument to another, we can change tempo, we can do whatever we like, and it's always going to sound perfectly in time. Not a single instrument in this project is not quantized exactly to the grid because they all have their negative track delay set correctly. We've got an instance here with the cymbals, which is pitch shifted down by 4 semitones. That's just to make it sound a bit more cinematic, a bit more epic. At some point as well, I would have bounced out one of these as an audio file, and then in Logic, I can go up to here to region and click on reverse to get a reverse cymbal sound like this. For me, that snare rim hit really embodies the feeling of the Christmas ballad sort of. I'll play around with the mic settings, I'll play around with the hype and the punch. all of that stuff. You know the score. Some really good sounding samples there. We'll come back to this in a minute, but moving downwards now, we have the WWE. Oh yeah, the woodwind ensemble. Well, this sounds really cool. I've just put it in octaves at the end here. My personal sound that I really like out of this is to bring it more close mic'd, but then conversely bring the reverb up. I change the type to hall, or if it's already hall, I leave it. And then I'll bring the size right up, and that gives us a bit more of that kind of symphonic sound. Our brass has two versions. I had one where I ramped the reverb right up for this section. As you can hear, this one has got shimmer on it. There is no better reverb than shimmer, but sometimes you can have too much of a good thing. When there's a lot of stuff going on, you don't want like long reverb drenching everything because it gets really messy really quickly. So this is that. Still pretty reverberant, but now it's a bit more tight, a bit more controlled. I used some EQ here to really bring up the warmth and bring up the uttermost treble. Next up, short strings. Again, a really useful Blueprint instrument if you don't already have it. These guys actually sound really dry by default, so to make it sound kind of more symphonic and like a larger ensemble, I like to put it on far mic'd, turn up the stereo width, and then of course, as I was saying with the reverb earlier, hall size turned up. There's quite a lot of mellow instruments in the Blueprint collection, so I like to kind of balance some of that mellowness with a bit of extra treble. With that, I believe that covers the fundamentals. You know, I could talk all day about each instrument and what it's doing, but I think fundamentally it's good if you get a tip out of it. But we've saved the best for last because, of course, we have wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 instances of Fracture Sound's Festive Bells. Hand bells. It really pays to have variety in timbre and register using the samples to their fullest. I just feel like this was a really good use for these bells at the very end here. Ooh. The second instrument in our Festive Bells collection, a rather different sound now and a completely different palette, if you will. This is the toy bells, and now these are very special because they are pitched so you can play a beautiful melody on them. But where it truly gets spellbinding is when you play higher velocities, you actually get a new sample. Now this is what we called a roll on the hammered dulcimer, and I would say it's very reminiscent of that, but this is more of a kind of double bell. So this plays a melody in the middle of the chorus. Here's how it sounds. And our third and final instrument in the Fracture Sounds Festive Bells collection is the sound of Christmas incarnate. Snow drifting outside the window, a warm fire, and the sound of approaching reindeer pulling a sleigh full of presents. I am, of course, talking about sleigh bells. You can see here that I've used key switches liberally throughout the piece to turn the Instant Christmas on and off. Naturally, of course, we had to have it for the grand finale, but I believe I have it here for this build-up section. Stunning. We have a solo in the middle of the piece. Now, I'm sure you probably heard it earlier, but let's just listen to it one more time in isolation. And you can hear there that we've really made use of all different sounds within the Sleigh Bells library. We have 1/24th notes, which in order to get the tightness up, I've turned it up in the instrument. But for the next bar after that, we then progress to 1/32th notes. In order to get it tight enough that we could play these notes fast like this, I had to bring the decay right down, and this is the result. And you can hear there that we've struck the balance between hyper-real sound, but also getting a bit of personality in there as well. And I think that will conclude our look at the piece. Might as well end on a high note. And indeed, the walkthrough of Dream Zither. Well, sort of walkthrough of Dream Zither. And this walkthrough of this, well, there's no other word for it, masterpiece. Indeed, maybe my finest work of all time. Alas, it came too late to go on my new album, but don't worry, you can listen to it on the Fracture Sounds website. You can download Dream Zither and the other 24 Blueprint instruments for free. So head to the link in the description in order to do that. Otherwise, consider leaving a like on this video if some of the vast wealth of knowledge I have imparted over the past 20 or so minutes have been of use. Have a happy Christmas, a good New Year, and I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.